Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Defying Disaster. This is Battlefield 4. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at all available sniper rifles in the game with the aim of finding out which of them is the best and which is best suited to your personal playstyle. Now before we get started with reviewing the sniper rifles we're going to be looking at today, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Abdulaziz and Krachbum for requesting this video regarding sniper rifles, or specifically the M98B in the case of Krachbum. I hope I'm able to answer your questions regarding these sniper rifles, and I hope you enjoy this video, of course. Now you may be asking yourself, what guns are we going to be looking at today? And I'm here to answer that. The first one we're going to be covering today is the CS LR4, followed by the JNG90, the SRR-61, and the M98B. Now you may be asking yourself, why is the Gol Magnum not included in this list? That is basically because the Gol Magnum is a alteration of the CS LR4 from a stat perspective, of course, with a slightly higher rate of fire but a significantly slower muzzle velocity. So if you are a player who prefers rate of fire over muzzle velocity, then feel free to pay attention when I review the CS LR4 and pick the Gol Magnum instead, because otherwise they have very similar to identical stats when it comes to most other things you should consider when looking at sniper rifles. Another thing we need to consider today, and I would like to warn you out, almost all sniper rifles are actually competent weapons in Battlefield 4. This is not like reviewing an assault rifle where there are huge differences between the guns. The ones we're looking at today stand out because of certain aspects being above average. So what I'm trying to say is, in the end, it comes down to personal preferences. There are only two bolt action sniper rifles in the game in Battlefield 4 I will consider bad, that you actually have to stay away from, and those are the Scout Elite and the FYJS, and it comes down to their minimum damage at 36.6, meaning that even with the high first shot headshot multiplier of 2.35 that all bolt action rifles sport, you are no longer getting a one-shot headshot kill at further distances. This is around from already 100 meters roughly with the Scout Elite and around about 150 with the FYJS. I don't know how you guys like to play your recon class, but I'm usually going for headshots because that guarantees me a kill, and it's basically useless with the Scout Elite or the FYJS because, let's face it, your typical sniper engagement distances for most shots are going to be between 75 and 200 meters, and at those distances guns like the Scout Elite are not guaranteeing you the kill when you get that one-shot headshot. At least in my opinion, I would prefer to use a DMR over something like this, because with the DMR at least I have a decent fire rate and I'm putting out a similar amount of damage at range, especially when considering the headshot or body shot combinations. With that being said though, let's move on to the guns we'll be reviewing in a little more detail today. Starting off then with the CS LR4. It has a standard sniper rifle damage model of 100 maximum damage and 59 minimum damage, with a standard damage drop-off start at 12.5 meters. All of this is identical to all the guns we're going to be looking at today. What isn't identical, however, is the damage drop-off ending at 100 meters instead of 150, meaning that you'll be doing slightly less damage than some of the competition today at longer ranges. However, this shouldn't impact the performance of this gun too much, because after all, we are going for that one-shot headshot kill, which the CS LR4 will do at any range you can possibly hit your target at. Moving on to the rate of fire of the CS LR4 at 40 rounds per minute. This is the fastest in our comparison today, and definitely useful if trying to hit that follow-up shot on your enemy, which you already got one in the chest. The magazine size, on the other hand, is the smallest in our comparison today at 5+1 or 6 bullets in total. Moving on to one of the most important stats of any sniper rifle, the muzzle velocity. The CS LR4 is tied for first place today in our comparison with 670 meters per second. Moving on to bullet drop at 9.81 meters per second squared. This is of course standard to almost all sniper rifles. The only exception in our comparison today will be the SRR-61. Last but not least, of course, we have the reload times with a short reload time of 2.6 seconds. It is the fastest in our comparison today. However, this is necessary given that we have a very small magazine size, and with a long reload time of 4.8 seconds, tied for the last place with the M98B and SRR-61. This can be slightly annoying given that you have a small magazine and you're gonna go through those 6 bullets on regular occasion. However, we are talking about a sniper rifle here, and you're not very often going to have to quickly reload your gun in close quarter. Otherwise, you're simply using the sniper rifle wrong. Moving on then to the JNG90. Once more, we have a starting damage, a maximum damage of 100, and a minimum damage of 59. The damage drop-off starts once more at 12.5 meters and ends once more at 100 meters, just like the CS LR5, meaning that you're doing a little bit less damage at distance than, say, the other competitors we're going to be looking at today. The rate of fire of the JNG90 is relatively low, yet not the lowest we're looking at today, at 37 rounds per minute. The magazine size, on the other hand, is amongst the biggest we'll be looking at today at 10+1 or 11 in total. And equally good is the muzzle velocity, tied for first place with the CS LR4 at 670 meters per second, meaning that you're going to be able to shoot those moving targets a lot easier with the JNG90 than, say, one of the guns with a little bit slower muzzle velocity. Then we have the bullet drop, of course, once more 9.81 meters second squared. The reload times are not bad, slightly worse on the short reload at 2.7 seconds than a CS LR4, and slightly better on the long reload with 4.2 seconds. Next up, we have the SRR-61 with a once more standard damage model of 100 damage maximum and 59 minimum. The damage drop-off starting at 12.5 meters and ending at 150 meters, meaning you're going to be doing a little bit more damage out on range. The fire rate, on the other hand, is amongst the lowest we'll be looking at today, with 36 rounds per minute to be shot with the SRR-61. The magazine size is 7+1, so 8 bullets in total, on the lower end of today's videos, but not, of course, quite as small as the CS LR4. The muzzle velocity is the lowest we'll be looking at today at 620 meters per second. However, still very high when we're looking at sniper rifles in general. Moving on then to the bullet drop. This is what makes the SRR-61 so very special, with only 6 meters per second squared. I'm not quite sure how this works in physical realism term, but this is of course a game, and what this means is that at longer distance targets, you're not going to have to aim above your target's head so highly than with other guns, making it easier, probably at least, to shoot those targets out at 200, 300, 400, 500 meters without actually altering your zero scale for your gun. Last but not least, we have the reload times of the SRR-61 at 4.8 seconds. Long reload, we have of course here something that is going to be right hefty, but it's on par with the CS LR4 and the M98B. And of course then we have the short reload time of 3 seconds, relatively good, yet on the lower end of today's comparison. But as I've earlier said already, we are talking about sniper rifles, where of course the reload time isn't of larger significance. Last but not least, we have the M98B with a start damage of 100 and an end damage, minimum damage of 59. Once more, we have the standard sniper rifle damage model with a damage drop-off starting at 12.5 meters and ending at 150 meters. Once more, we have a sniper rifle which will give you a little bit more damage out at range. Once more, only really marginally relevant, however, because we're of course going for those headshots. The fire rate of the M98B is 36 rounds per minute, tied for the last place with the SRR-61 of the guns we're going to be looking at today. The magazine size at 10+1 or 11 in total is tied for first place with the JNG90, and has allowed you to fire this gun a little bit more without having to bother to reload too often. The muzzle velocity at 650 meters per second isn't the fastest, however, still plenty fast compared to your average sniper rifle, being beat out, however, by the JNG90 and CS LR4 by 20 meters per second. Then we have, of course, the bullet drop at 9.81, standard to almost all the guns we looked at today, with the exception, of course, the SRR-61. Reload times are on the hefty side with a 3-second short reload, that is with 1 or more bullets left in the chamber, and 4.8 seconds for the long reload. This is, however, semi-compensated by the fact that, of course, we have a larger magazine on the M98B than most of the other sniper rifles we looked at today. Before we get into the verdict of which sniper rifle I prefer, which one is best suited for your playstyle, let's quickly go over the attachments for the sniper rifle. I generally use the rifle scope 8 times or the PKA 3.4 times scope, and in the case of the CS LR4 today, I also used the CL 6x6 times scope because I actually didn't have too many sights unlocked for that sniper rifle just yet. When it comes to other attachments, I usually have the rangefinder because I find myself not actually engaging targets beyond 300 meters. However, if you are somebody who really goes for the long range snipes, then I could also maybe really recommend the variable zoom, allowing you to zoom up to 14 times with something like an 8 times scope. This of course allows you a little bit more flexibility in your engagement distances for longer range targets. However, it's not something I usually use. When it comes to barrel attachment, there's no really sensible thing to put on. The muzzle brake isn't going to help you, and a suppressor is only going to reduce your muzzle velocity, which is something you do not want to do on a sniper rifle. So for me, I always have a standard barrel on my sniper rifles. And last but not least, for the auxiliary, of course, the straight pull. There's no real benefits to a bipod, whereas a straight pull allows you to start rechambering the gun as soon as your shot is fired and not once you've actually disengaged your looking down sights optic function. This allows you, of course, to stay looking down sights and fire multiple shots without actually having to disengage your target and possibly losing your target, which of course is very important when firing multiple shots at a single person. So with all that being said, all those guns being analyzed, let's go over which one is the best and for what these guns are best suited. In my opinion, the winner is narrowly the JNG 90, and it beats out the CS LR4 because of its magazine size and that only. It does, of course, have a slightly better long reload and a slightly worse short reload. It has a slightly worse fire rate, but the larger magazine means you're not reloading that often. And frankly, a great fire rate isn't that great if you've only got 5 or 6 bullets to shoot versus 11 of the JNG 90. However, if you don't mind those 5+1 bullet magazine of the CS LR4, or you're just always somebody who shoots one shot and always gets his kill, doesn't need to rechamber and shoot another, then the CS LR4 can be something for you as well. It's a very competent sniper rifle. On the other hand, we have the SRR-61, probably the best for very long distance sniping at 200-300 meters, because of course most snipers do not adjust their zero position of their scope, but instead aim above the head of their target by a given distance, depending on how far their target is out. The SRR-61 makes this process easier because of course the bullet drop is defying the laws of physics and is slightly less than the rest of the guns at 6 instead of 9.81. And last but not least, we have the M98B, and this is actually my favorite sniper rifle, not because of any of the characteristics. It's very similar to the JNG 90, only has a marginally lower fire rate and marginally slower muzzle velocity with a marginally longer reload time. But for me, it's just a matter of the aesthetics and how I feel when running around with this massive gun. I prefer the M98B. It's the first sniper rifle I actually mastered, but it isn't the best if you take it strictly. The JNG is a slightly better choice, but when it comes down to it, all of these sniper rifles are very competent and I can recommend you try them all out. In the end, it's going to be a matter of personal preference anyway, which combination of stats and strengths and weaknesses you prefer. At least in my opinion, the JNG 90 is the best of them all if you take it from a mathematical perspective. With all that being said though, I'd be interested to see what you think about my analysis and my conclusion. Do you agree with me? Disagree with me? Is this different on console to PC? Which is your favorite sniper rifle and why? Feel free to let me know all of that in the comments down below, as well as your future video suggestions, as this once more was a video suggestions by one of my viewers. But with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed and I hope to see you in the next Battlefield 4 video.